If you're not first, you're last. Boom and gloom time. Well, welcome to Locked On Nuggets. Today, we get an amazing press conference from Josh Kroenke and Ryan Blackburn, who was there asking the hard-hitting questions. Mr. CNN, Mr. News, Mr. ESPN himself. Yo, this is going to be a great conversation. We're going to find out just what were the takeaways from today's press conference. What are some thoughts about the internal development conversations, about where the team might be, how close they might be to title contention, and any other takeaways that we might have from there. Y'all know what time it is. This is Boom, That's Gloom. Welcome to Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Locked On Nuggets. This is your daily Denver Nuggets podcast with some of the best voices in all of the Colorado market. Shout out to you all. So glad to be here with you today, y'all. This is going to be an incredible episode. Josh Kroenke, man on a mission, gave a great press conference in which Ryan was in attendance for. We're going to talk about all the great things that came out of this press conference and what you, as the fan, should expect from this moment on. But today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. All right, y'all, let's get straight to it. Hurricane T-Bag. I wish Swipa on the team instead. Nikhil Alexander-Walker, you would be an MVP candidate by now. Ryan Blackburn, how are you doing today, my brother?
I'm doing well, man. I dropped the Boom and Gloom as the new podcast duo for our podcast title. So I think that's going to go pretty well. Go pretty hard.
I don't actually think you're gloomy. I think, if anything, you're just slower to happiness, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, you better believe it. I am slow to happiness. We already know. No, it's just it is. But I kind of lean into it, of course. But it's always interesting to be around the team in moments like these, and then you get to hear some very interesting things. And I guess we should start off with it at the top. David Adelman becoming the new head coach of the Denver Nuggets. I do think very earned. I think very it's not unforeseen that he was going to take over for this particular spot. What was your immediate reaction when you heard that?
So we had talked about this in our group chat a little bit, and I had conversation with some people about this as well offline. I wasn't unexpecting it. I think that if you are a better playoff coach than a regular season coach in your first playoff debut, that's a big deal, you know? And for him to win the first series versus Ty Lue, I think out-coaching Ty Lue, that's important. I think then going head-to-head with Mark Daigneault, who won Coach of the Year just last year, and then taking that team to 7, I think he earned himself a lot of credibility because, Ryan, I'd be lying to you. Shout out to CT, by the way. CT all year has been calling for the Denver Nuggets. More zone, more zone, more zone. Me, I'm like, zone in the NBA? Man, like, bro, we getting cooked, bro. Like, you're not running no zone versus all these shooters. But David Adelman, he found a way. They ran a heavy 2-3 zone in the playoffs, and it worked to perfection. They also changed up their coverages defensively a lot. They got buy-in from the players across the board. And then even the offense, the Nuggets found out some ways to be creative offensively, even with a limited personnel. So it made sense why they hired him, Ryan. And I think hopefully he will be the man for the job. But this was definitely probably the most expected outcome on the hiring front, I think.
Undoubtedly the most expected. It kind of lines up with everything that the Nuggets really need. Couple of points, obviously. Tony B's been complaining about ownership for a while now, but he says DA might be the right guy for the job, but to hire him before a GM is a big mistake. I think there's an argument for that, to be clear. But if Denver knows and the players are all very comfortable with David Adelman and they believe in him, then I don't hate the idea of them bringing in somebody that they already are comfortable with and understand. And there's, I think, this underlying sentiment about his coaching style that it can be a little bit more creative and a little bit more flexible than Michael Malone's was. And he was more of an emotional coach, want to just kind of bang the table a little bit and say, yeah, we just got to play harder. And with Adelman, I think a lot of the players specifically are very, very happy that Adelman is going to be the guy.
Yeah.
Just talking to some folks, they think that, like, he can help get out more from the depth of this team and some of the younger guys, the developing guys. And he's one of the key people in that entire conversation. So would you have gotten that if you hired a guy like Doc Rivers? Probably not.
I have no idea why Doc Rivers is getting thrown around. He has a job, Ryan Blackburn. He's fully employed.
Jeff Van Gundy or Stan Van Gundy or like what a traditional
Red Auerbach. Just bring them all
out. Exactly. So, well, I think Adelman represents kind of a blend between what Denver was doing and what they need to do going forward. So I think it's a good hire, but I do understand why people are a little bit sketched out about it, because if you don't hire a GM that is aligned in the same direction, then that's a problem.
How do you feel about that personally, looking at the situation where they hire the coach, they don't have a GM in place? Do you feel like this kind of is the lead in into we're just going to hire internally on the GM side and we're just going to kind of go from there?
I don't know. It was pretty surprising. I had heard from somebody as well that Denver was initially going to announce Adelman and Tenzer at this thing. Like Ben Tenzer, the interim general manager, I had heard that they were initially that was initially the plan. And then it didn't happen. And it was only Adelman that kind of got leaked. And for some reason, Ben Tenzer has not been announced as the next general manager. So I don't know what the reason is for that. We can only speculate about things like that. And that was just somebody told me something. That's not necessarily anything crazy. But I do think that there's at least a world where Denver decides, you know what? We're going to go a different direction. And it's a direction that they didn't expect to go before. But I think there's also, and Josh was asked about this earlier today, there's a world where they need an exterior voice, somebody that comes from outside of the organization and can be at least a consultant, but potentially the entire decision maker on the process, to kind of take the decision out of Denver's hands a little bit and give it to somebody that they trust, that they believe in that vision. So I don't know. We will see what ultimately happens with it.
Yeah, I guess for me, Ryan, I'm just very curious. I know the fans are curious. What exactly is the game plan going to be? Again, we're going to talk about that here in a second. No GM in place. Coach Adelman did a great job. I think that's really important to note. But Coach Adelman is not a miracle worker. Like, no. He can't manufacture success with limited options coming off the bench, or even obviously, with the Porter injury and all that kind of stuff. Obviously we're hoping he's going to be healthy. Aaron Gordon will be healthy by next season. But I just think that for me, one of the biggest concerns that people have with Josh Kroenke currently and with KSE in totality, are they going to be complacent? Or are they going to use the excuse of the CBA, of the second apron, to bemoan that we're not able to do more because of the restrictions that are in front of us? What do you want us to do to improve this situation? Because, Ryan, what I don't want to happen, because on a day-to-day basis, Ryan, you have expectations. You work.
Oh, yeah.
You have people that you're responsible to.
Oh, yeah.
So even if your options you might feel are limited, you're still expected to produce based on what you have in front of you. And you do a great job of that. I'm expected to produce. So it doesn't matter what's happening around me. Like, you have a job to do. You have an obligation to an audience. The audience expects us to be able to stand up, be researched, be educated, and be prepared like we're doing right now. But what I don't want to happen, Ryan, is that because of the CBA, that the Kroenkes or the Nuggets organization, that they're somehow able to look at the CBA and the second apron stuff and say, well, we really don't have the ability to do our jobs. Because for me, that is simply going to be, we don't think that we have the skill set to really make this team more viable than it was last year. Because, Ryan, we talked about this last offseason. They were lacking a lot of things. There were things they were missing with this team. Calvin Booth said that if we need to add shooting, if we need to have a player, well, the reason why we're not over the second apron, because we want to have the ability to add a player, and then trade deadline came and went, Ryan, and nothing was added. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, are they willing to step into the fire, Ryan, to make the decisions to improve the team, and honestly, to a degree, by any means necessary? Is that going to be the mentality, or is it just going to be, we tried our best, but nothing could happen from it?
Well, you're not going to like to hear this, but they may not be able to make those decisions that you want. They may not have the ability. It's not like the players that they need the players that like you would hope that they could go get are not necessarily available for what the Nuggets can actually offer, even if they decided that they wanted to offer those things. So it's one of the reasons I think that we're kind of in this position. But the good news is that they believe that David Adelman can work with what they have a little bit better than Malone did, that he doesn't have the same pressure that Malone was kind of displaying against Calvin Booth, and that it's not like nobody's an Adelman guy. They're all Adelman guys. Like that's I think a very important piece of this. They are all Adelman guys, and the hope is that if Denver continues to work, if they continue to push forward and Adelman continues to push the right buttons with the group that they already have, and maybe you make 1 or 2 fringe moves or 3 or 4 fringe moves or something like that. They already took OKC to 7. Like, what's to say that they couldn't have won the series in 5 if they close things out in the way that they need to? So that's the vision. That's what they're talking. That's how they are promoting this. I don't think I agree, but that's just what they're trying to say.
We'll talk more about this on the other side, because I have some thoughts, Ryan Blackburn. We'll be back here at Locked On Nuggets. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, can't miss moment. Did you see the Indiana Pacers versus the New York Knicks last night? Shot after shot after shot. Brunson, Halley, Neesmith, what a game. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Which players are showing up to the biggest moments, and how could you track your best to make sure you're on top of your game? SGA versus the Wolves tonight. SGA just won its MVP. That is somebody you definitely need to be throwing your money on and saying, I bet he can have a good game. Does Anthony Edwards respond? That's another one. But y'all, tap into the Pacers and the Knicks. That's going to be a fire show, and it's going to make it even better. So new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Y'all, we'll be right back for more here on Locked On Nuggets. What's going on, y'all? We are back here for segment 2 of Locked On Nuggets. Yo, this is Swipa and that's Ryan. Make sure if you're listening to this on the Apple iTunes side and Spotify side, give it a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star review. That way more and more people can listen to the great content be made here at Locked On Nuggets. And if you're watching this on YouTube, like, share, subscribe. You see how hard we're working, putting up great content for you every day. Make sure you're letting people know we like getting your favorite Denver Nuggets content. If you want Ryan Blackburn to shave his side of his hair, do the Peaky Blinders look, make sure we get the 15,000 subscribers, y'all. I'm telling y'all, he said he's going to shave his head. Y'all,
nobody wants
this. Is the place to be. Yo, I can't wait, Ryan. So let me be honest with you, brother.
Yeah.
We're friends.
Oh, yeah.
We're co-workers, but we're friends. I think if Josh Kroenke or anybody else is going to say, well, look at the end result. We went 7 with OKC. But at the same time, ignore the process for why they didn't win the series, why the season was so long, why the regular season was disappointing, why the Clippers series went 7. I said there was going to be a 7-game series, Ryan Blackburn, because of the way the team matched up with each other. But that ain't got nothing to do with actually being close to OKC, because OKC, they got breathing room up and down their roster. The Nuggets, Ryan, they got so bad. They didn't have somebody outside the top 5 in the rotation that they could play late into the series.
Sure.
And so for me, Ryan, I guess for me, Ryan, I don't want to hear any more excuses, because I heard the same thing last year. We heard the same thing last year. They said, well, look, the CBA, like you can't pay KCP. You know, you can't do this, you can't do that. We couldn't retain Bruce Brown. We heard all that.
They could have paid KCP however much they wanted to. They just didn't really want to.
Right. So I'm saying, Ryan, like, But how much of this for me, like, and I guess for you, like, how much of this is Jokic is in his age 30 season this next year?
Yep.
You really ain't got but 5, 6, 7 more chances. You can't keep gambling like this.
Man.
You got to take a swing.
I mean, don't worry. I totally hear you, man. One of the things I wanted to ask Josh was about specific players. We didn't have enough time because 25 minutes and several people decided they wanted to ask their long-winded 2-part questions at the presser today. I wanted to ask him about Jamal because I think that's a key factor here. What are the internal expectations for Jamal Murray? And if the Nuggets are in fact prioritizing internal development, does he kind of exist in that? Like, does he have to be an all-star for Denver to win? Does he have to be an all-star in the regular season for Denver to have the gas that they need in the playoffs? I think that there's so many reasons to wonder whether Denver's core is good enough to win the championship again, especially with the way that the bench looks. And there's a lot of questions that Denver can win with the way that their bench looks because their core isn't like at the level that they were in 2023. I think Aaron Gordon is, but he's also he's going to be in year 12. Michael Porter, he doesn't have a lot of time left in terms of like how long he's going to be at a starter caliber level, I don't think. And Jamal, I think, is the key in that. Can he be good enough to carry? And if the answer is no, then I don't think this plan could work.
Well, the answer is no. I mean,
are we outlawing it entirely? We do not think it's ever going to happen.
I don't think that it's fair to ask Jamal to be something he's not. Like, Ryan,
the contract would say that it is.
16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. This is going to be year what, Ryan, for Jamal?
Year 10. Actually, well, he missed 22, so
well, no, this is year 10.
We'll call it year 9.
It's year 10.
Okay, all right.
When you look on the resume, when he gets his retirement check, it's gonna say 10 years in the league, right? Like,
yes, it will. The paychecks will have been paid for 10 years.
Exactly. So,
sure.
But I don't think Jamal is that kind of player in a regular season. I don't think he has the ability to carry at that level in a regular season. He's not that type of guard in the regular season, and even in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I think he was good. He wasn't spectacular. I think he was really good in some spots, though.
He was.
But he also.
I don't think he was the reason why they lost the series.
Right. But that's what I'm saying, bro. It's like, that's not Jamal. So if that's the question, then Ryan, if the question can't be, how do we do this again? Jokic, just go be all-time great again, and then we'll win 50, 56, 57 games, whatever. If it's not going to be, you got another 1-2 punch where the other dude's an all-NBA player, Ryan, then wouldn't it make more sense then that in this era of basketball, you need to have 8 to 9 guys that you can play, that you can run with, and then you got like variability in how you're deploying them? Is that not the new way to win in this NBA?
I think that's why they're talking about the internal development like they are. Because if you let's just line it up really quickly. You've got the starting 5, and then you've got beyond that Russell Westbrook, who they'll probably try to get back, Peyton Watson, who they believe in, who you believe in, who I believe, who think that he can be something, Julian Strawther, who stepped up in a big way. And those are 8 right there. If you're talking about in at least an 8-man rotation, adding on to that, Deron Holmes, Jalen Pickett, if you still believe in him, Zeke Naji, if there's actually belief there that he can be in his 6th season, something that they can trust, then that's 11 right there. And that doesn't account for the possibility that they go out and get somebody new. So I think that there
Dario
is
Saric,
a
player option.
Well, Dario Saric, yeah. So the player option, they could also flip that along with a first-round pick or even a variety of other things, and then try to get somebody else on the end of their bench that could step up.
Trade Dario with the first, you said?
Yeah, because then you could, hypothetically, couldn't you get somebody like the next Nickeil Alexander-Walker for that? See, I made you feel all gooey inside. It's good.
But that just sounds like run it back and hope
That's the
next year of development.
That's the plan.
No,
I'm telling you,
Ryan, I'm telling you, no. And again, maybe I just need to say this whole record. Right, I don't know everything. You don't know everything. I don't know everything, obviously. But speak for me. I don't know everything.
I know,
but everything. I feel like I got a great sense for this team.
Okay,
Ryan, Gambling that, as Jeff and I said the other day, that late first round picks and second round picks will take the magical leap in summer 2025 to become a top 10 bench unit in the sport. It's probably not going to work out in your favor. Historically, throughout the annals of NBA history, that's just not how it works. That's not how the job gets done. So if they're saying that the very next year, after struggling all year to find breath, we're just going to run it back with the same bench and the same team and just hope everybody just gets in the magic lab this summer and comes out looking like the magic school bus next year. No, like, I'm sorry. No, that's not acceptable.
I would also like it on record that I agree with you, that I do not think it is a good plan, that I do not think that this is something that will work out for the team. All I am trying to portray is this is what they are selling. This is what the organization is pushing. And I've heard that from multiple people, that this is like, without the flexibility of having draft picks, without the flexibility of having really anything that they can go to, I think that they're going to try to run it back because they can't really trade Michael Porter Jr. They can't really trade Jamal Murray, not for good value, at least not for the kinds of guys that you would be hoping for in a return. So it's they're caught between a rock and a hard place, man. And I keep trying to portray this to everybody.
Right. On the other side, we're going to talk about that because I don't believe that. That's what I'm saying. Like, at some level, we'll talk about that on the other side here at Locked On Nuggets. Pew. Pew. We're back here for segment 3 of Locked On Nuggets. This is the final segment here with Ryan Blackburn, a.k.a. Ryan Realistic Burn, Ryan Second Apron Burn, and Swipa, do your job, Swipa.
Ryan, do you actually take pleasure in being right all the time? You are miserable as hell.
Ryan, I'm sorry. Can you please give me the context of Josh saying that I'm aware of Jokic's comments, I'm aware of our duty to Jokic, and what basically he was kind of trying to say and embody in some of his language, because he was very targeted about the language that he understood what Jokic had to say about the bench and the rotation, but he's also aware of the responsibility that the organization has to Jokic at the same time if you have those prepared.
Yeah, he was pretty adamant about it, that he is aware of the messaging from Nikola. He does understand how valuable, and like he said, it also wasn't above Jokic's pay grade to kind of provide input on these situations.
He said it wasn't
on the next head coach. Like, it's not above his pay grade. He gets paid a whole heck of a lot in order to do that. So.
I remember somebody said last year that he stays in this lane and, make sure we allow to do our job and all that kind of stuff. But shout out. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, he does, but like, kind of, not really. Like he also took the clipboard on several occasions during the year this year. So look, like, I think that what Josh was really trying to convey was that he heard Nikola, that he understands and he agrees with him. He does agree with him that the team was not good enough in order, and like, especially kind of with their depth, in order to seriously challenge. I think the disconnect here is whether you believe that David Adelman and the Nuggets player development and the young guys that Denver has accumulated, whether they are good enough to get better and improve in that situation and make it a different context than what it was this year, where Denver basically had 6.5 guys for much of the playoffs. I do think that there's a world where, again, as I mentioned it, you add 1 or 2 other guys, you add Deron Holmes, and you kind of get minor improvements across the board, and you start to feel a little bit better. The other thing is that I'll say, I don't think they're going to be doing as many all bench lineups anymore. I really think they're going to be doing a lot of, hey, you've got 2 or 3 starters that are staggering pretty much at all times. And that's how you kind of add to the rotation a little bit more. And so we'll see what ultimately it looks like, what happens here. But I do think that there is a world where it's like Josh can say that he hears Nikola and understands and appreciates Nikola, but he also kind of doubled down on the idea of internal development.
Look, I think this is why this episode is important, audience. because sometimes I think you have to play the politics, which I very well love playing politics. It's fun. Yeah. I think it's awfully entertaining for me. But sometimes you just got to tell it straight. And Ryan, I'm just think the audience needs us to tell it straight, and especially needs me to tell it straight because, hey, that's why we're here. If they do that, I think that is going to be probably the biggest mistake that this organization has made around a star player ever. I don't think that simply conceding to the difficulty of acquiring talent or doing your job is enough to just say, we're just going to run it back. Again, you signed Dario Saric last year with your taxpayer MLE, did they not?
Oh, they did. And I was pretty critical that they used the MLE on that. He should have been a minimum guy.
You made that decision. You also made him a player option player. You did that. Yeah. You signed Reggie Jackson to a 2-year, $10 million play option. You then signed him to do that, traded him with 3 second-round picks to get off the contract. You did that. You drafted Hunter Tyson and Jalen Pickett and said, this is the best thing to do. We're going to depend on these guys. You didn't bring Justin Holiday back. You kept these second-round players on the rotation all season, even though they weren't playing. You did that. You decided to go young, Ryan, and then didn't do it in the lottery. You made all of these decisions. You're accountable for these things. So what I'm trying to understand, Ryan, is like you don't get to, on the other end of that, say, we hear Jokic. We know the starters need assistance. We know the starters need this and that. And be like, but, hey, just rely on internal development. Ryan, I want you to tell me another team. And I'm going to help you out before I ask you.
Oh,
tell
sure.
me the other team that's doing the same thing, because I can tell you the Pacers ain't doing that. The Thunder even going after they went and got Alex Caruso. And they drafted high Cason Wallace and J-Dub to add to their rotation. They drafted Chet Holmgren and all of them. They went and got Isaiah Hartenstein. They did what they had to do. No, again, I'm not talking about getting Isaiah Hartenstein.
Okay.
I don't know.
Here's the context that you need. Here's the context that you need. Yeah. Denver already got to the mountaintop. They won. They won doing this exact thing.
Yeah, sure.
And they made mistakes after that. That is to be clear. They lost Bruce Brown. There was nothing they could really do about that. But the mistakes that they made in that offseason were horrible and deserve to be just as criticized as the ones of this last offseason, where they also doubled down and made more mistakes. So I'm with you. They have some problems that they need. Like the moves that they actually made in those places were bad. But comparing Denver to OKC, a team that's never made it to the mountaintop before, is really tough. Indiana is really tough. Like those teams are in a different situation, especially in their timetable than what Denver is right now. So is there, like, here's the thing. Here's what Ted says. Like us selling low on MPJ is exactly what Milwaukee did in bringing in Kuzma. That's the kind of deal that you're talking about here. For getting, like, if you're trading Michael Porter Jr., if you're trading, hypothetically, if you trade Jamal Murray for Jonathan Isaac, Cole Anthony, and Wendell Carter Jr. from the Orlando Magic.
Your trade, you mean the trade you proposed?
I would do a couple of different variations of that, but like the point being is that Denver probably gets worse in those contexts if they're making your trades. So are you willing? No. Cam, are you willing to get worse?
No, I'm not talking about those trades. That's crazy.
Okay,
I'm talking about.
Give me the idea. What's the magic?
We have a preview coming out later this summer about the free agency that we're not going to reveal right now. But I will say it's just getting veterans on the margin. I think you have to have players off the bench that are at least of the age range you need, and at least have the ability to do things that add to your roster. What you don't do is go young, hope that they develop. We had this conversation last year. 6 rookie contracts is crazy, Ryan. We talked about that last year.
Yeah. They needed more veteran minimums and fewer rookie contracts.
Cool. So go do that. There are plenty of players that are rotational players on minimums throughout the league that end up being better as time goes on, or even just taxpayer MLE players. There are players that you can pay to do these jobs that can step in, do a job, and help you at least to have more options. That is my critique. It's not even about Porter and Gordon and Murray. I haven't even brought them up because for me, that's not even the real issue. The issue is the philosophy of building out the rotation. Go ahead.
They just don't have the financial flexibility with those other contracts in order to do the things that you're talking about. Because if you like, a lot of the veterans that you're talking about are either vet minimum guys that Denver can't trade for because their teams aren't, like, they're in positions where they're already on winning teams. They're not in these positions where they're on rebuilding teams and Denver can just send them over some young guys on a draft pick. In a lot of these cases, a lot of those players are making like $10+ million. Denver can't match that money. They just can't. Like, these are your Marcus Smarts, your Rashawn Holmeses, your Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington. If you want to go back and look at what Charlotte and Dallas did, there's a couple, like, we could talk about all the names.
Who's bringing up those names though? Those are all like out of their price range players. You don't think Lonnie Walker would be one that would have helped them this year?
I don't think he would have done a single thing in the playoffs.
I think you're tripping. I saw him do something.
A single thing.
I think I saw him do something. I saw he's better than Justin Holiday, and Justin Holiday had moments in the playoffs last year.
Here, you know how many games Lonnie Walker had in that 2023 run for the Lakers that were impactful? One. You know how many Julian Strawther had? One. He just did it. Like, he did exactly the way you're asking for. That's all you're getting.
All right, let me go through this list because Ryan and I have done this so many times. Now you act like you got amnesia about what I'm talking about. All right. So right now, let's see here. No, I'm not gonna revisit this. We'll do this later at a later date.
We'll have plenty of time to talk about this. All I'm saying is that this stuff is hard, man. I don't have, like, I have sympathy for the Nuggets in this situation, but the job is the job. I do agree with you that, like, the job is the job. You have to get it done, and anything less than that is unacceptable. So Denver has to find a way to create value where they're probably not going to find a lot. So, like, you have to be right and get good on these margin moves that you've screwed up and screwed over every single time these last 2 years. So figure it out, do better. And, like, hopefully the next general manager that they sign can actually have, like, a good pulse on what they need.
Oh, Ryan, one day the Nuggets will reach out and be like, you know what, you think Mr. Know-It-All? Why don't you fix it? We'll hire you to do the job. No problem.
I have plenty of ideas.
All right, we have great ideas. Boom and gloom to the front office to make
Boom and gloom to the moon. Let's go.
That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Nuggets, y'all. Whatever you think, let us know in the comment section what you thought about the presser. What do you think the Denver Nuggets should do? Is Swipa tripping? Is Ryan tripping? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with Ryan? Let us know. Is it their job to make things better? And will the Denver Nuggets make the move necessary to get back into the NBA Finals? Ryan, Swipa, see you on the other side.
Boom and gloom.